Hi everyone, welcome to this special World Briefing video. I'm talking to you here in Kiev, Ukraine, just before 1 p.m. on Monday. That's 1 p.m. GMT, almost 4 p.m. Local time. So I wanted to, while I'm still fresh from waiting to go live on Australian TV, just to put a few threads together of what we just saw over the past few hours happening in Israel and Gaza. So President Trump has just wrapped up a very long speech to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Apparently, he's 3 hours behind. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, many other world leaders, including leaders of Gulf ally countries, are waiting for him in Sharm el-Sheikh for a so-called peace summit. I'll get to that in a moment. A victory lap speech. It was a kind of collective hug between the Israeli and the American sides. And I couldn't help but think, and I wrote this down in front of me in capital letters, what the Democrats or opponents of Trump were thinking back in the United States when the Israeli Prime Minister came on, also very, very jubilant. I'll get to him in a minute too, saying, quote, "The world needs more Trumps. The world needs more Trumps." I'm sure that went over like a lead balloon. But speaking of Netanyahu, this was also kind of the unofficial launch of his re-election campaign. This is a man who has a whole stack of corruption charges waiting for him to deal with. Some Israelis told me when I was there just after the October 2023 that he deliberately not planned these attacks, but deliberately configured things so that he could create the instability that would keep him in power. I'm not going to say anything about that, not my place, but his opinion ratings are very, very low. Who knows if this peace deal will give him a bump. But so today was the first, almost second step of the Trump 20-point peace plan, where 20 living hostages were freed. We saw it on video. Jubilation in Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. Only a handful of remains of deceased hostages. All of them were supposed to be handed over, all of the remains. So that prompted quite a strong rebuke from the hostage family committee, saying this was not part of the deal, and Hamas, who governs the territory more or less, needs to be held accountable. In return for that, there were Palestinian detainees released, 1,700 detainees, and 250 Palestinian prisoners. It needs to be said that something like 10,000 Palestinians remain in Israeli custody, many of them there tried by military tribunals without any representation. And that has prompted a strong statement from an outfit in the UK called Children Not Numbers. And they said a prominent Palestinian physician has not been released, and this is a disgrace because the needs in Gaza are so great right now for medical professionals. Many, many, many have been killed, not to mention destruction of medical facilities. From the Trump speech is that he held out the olive branch, if you will, for Iran to accept a peace deal. And there was a news hook for those of us here in Ukraine where Trump, referring to the war in Ukraine, of course, Russia's full-scale invasion, said, quote unquote, "We will get that one done." And later he retasked his envoy for everything, his Mr. Fix-It, Steve Witkoff, to re-engage with Russia, with Mr. Putin, and to bring an end to that war. He called it a shame. He said something like 7,000 soldiers die every day, and he wants to move on to that. Let's see what happens. Speaking of what just happened as well, we have to go back quite a few weeks to when Israel bombed Doha, the capital of Qatar, a key U.S. ally, biggest U.S. base in the Middle East. But that's where Hamas negotiators were stationed at the invitation of Qatar. The Israelis knew full well why they were there, and they went ahead and bombed the facility which housed the Hamas negotiators. Did not go over well. What it did, it changed the power dynamic, whereas it was Mr. Trump who was going to take charge of this whole mess. And Mr. Netanyahu is going to do whatever he is told to do, including calling the leader of Qatar and apologizing to him on camera from the Oval Office, but also agreeing to this peace deal. So a real big shift in the power dynamic. It was also, I think, Mr. Trump, who is a tough guy to figure out, but he did seem to be moved. He did seem to be reacting to public sentiment on the ground in Israel, especially the hostage families who are sending him appeals to please do something. And he saw those, and it was interesting because you had Israeli civil society speaking over the head of their elected leader, Benjamin Netanyahu. So that caused a shift in things too. What happens next is, as I speak, Mr. Trump is on his way to Sharm el-Sheikh at a peace summit going to be hosted by Egyptian strongman, Mr. el-Sisi. And as I said, all the leaders are there waiting. We don't know what's going to come out of this. It's hard even to figure out the purpose. Maybe it's mostly symbolic. But Mr. Trump did refer to the potential of the Middle East, the potential of Israel, the potential of Gaza. There's talk of it becoming a tax-free city, housing startups, talk of a Tesla factory, of server farms. Let's see what happens, but it looks like there will be a board of technocrats chaired by Mr. Trump trying to figure out what to do. But the first thing that needs to happen, obviously, is for aid to get in and for rebuilding and rubble to be removed. Yesterday, a piece of good news really is something like 430 trucks did get in, and for the first time in a long time, they carried cooking gas and fuel. But aid experts say we need something like 600 trucks or lorries every day for the next 2 months, and they need to include what the Israelis refer to as dual-use cargo, things like cement and, again, cooking gas and fuel, heavy equipment to remove rubble. Under the rubble in Gaza, something like 9,000 bodies are expected to be found there, if they're ever found. Since Israel's war in Gaza, something like almost 68,000 people have died, many women and children, more than 170,000 wounded. A total of 1,139 people were killed in Israel during the October 7 attacks, 200 taken captive, and we had batches of release of people released previously. I am going to stay on this. Reminder that I am a former spokesperson for UNICEF in the West Bank and Gaza. I've spent a lot of time there in occupied East Jerusalem and on the Israeli side. I was there on the ground a few weeks after the October 7th attacks, spending a lot of time on the Israeli side talking to people and, of course, to Palestinians. When I was in Israel, it really struck me as well by Jaffa, where I was staying, that a lot of the bars and restaurants were empty of staff because a lot of them were at that music festival, which was attacked by Hamas. And also when you went around Tel Aviv, you realized that there were thousands and thousands and thousands of Israelis displaced from the north and from the south, from near Gaza, basically spending their days in hotel rooms in Tel Aviv and elsewhere. So massive disruptions. And then the other thing that happened finally, I'll end on this, is that Palestinians were finally told no more work in Israel proper. So you're gone from the construction sites, and construction basically ground to a halt. So it showed you how reliant they were on Palestinian labor. That was something that really, really struck me when I was there too. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it's of interest. Let me know what you think, and I will keep on this for you. Bye-bye.